Welcome to the Learn to RV podcast, where every mile is a lesson and every stop is an adventure.
Welcome to Learn to RV, the podcast. My name is Tasha, and you are here with myself and my wonderful co hosts, Jenn and Jennifer. And today we are here to talk about giving back on the road. And I wanted to ask you guys, do you guys have any ways that you like to get active out in the communities that you visit with your families while you're traveling?
So, I mean, that depends on where we are. A lot of times we are not somewhere where that's possible. We have done like at a campground where we helped organize the turkey dinner, that sort of thing over the years. And we have actually served at a soup kitchen one year for Thanksgiving, I believe. Yeah, I think it was Thanksgiving. And so, but we also do blessing bags. Have you guys ever done a blessing bag? Where
Yeah.
we'll organize a bunch of people to get together and we'll bring in different items for the homeless community in a specific area. And so we did that in Vegas one year. And so, you just have everybody bring a little something and you make those types of bags. And, I think Thanksgiving lends itself to thinking about that more, and just being thankful for what we have. So it's a different dynamic. I think our mindset shifts in November a lot of
Yeah.
times, and I think that we think outside ourselves.
Yeah, I think so too. Jen, what kind of ways do you get out there with your kids and your husband? Because you've got
I don't
4
know,
girls,
we're
and
boring.
you are not boring. You are by nature not boring. I haven't even met you in person, I know you're
Ah.
not boring.
You haven't met me yet. No, it I unfortunately, I can't say that we necessarily go out of our way to do anything. If we happen to be somewhere and the campground is doing something, we'll dive
Mhm.
in. Um, but that's kind of it. Otherwise, Thanksgiving for us is usually right after a summer of working hard, work camping and stuff. And so if we're not switching gears and doing a work camping gig in the winter, then we're busy unwinding and decompressing from our summer. So yeah, like I said,
See,
we're
and I
boring.
don't see that in you at all. I see that for years you helped organize a giving back event within full-time families that doesn't
Did I?
exist anymore. Yeah, I
Oh,
mean,
I did that for 2 years. You're right. I did do
right.
that for
And
2 years.
yeah. And so, I
I
mean,
forgot.
I would
That's
love to see
Christmas.
that. Yeah, but it was a neat idea. And so
Yeah.
what it was, well,
I
I
want to
mean, the
start that and learn to RV.
right, and so we'd love to bring that to
Mhm.
Learn to RV is having, and we can't do it this year, but maybe next year going into it. Obviously,
Yes.
Learn to RV has to have Patreon and some people making some money in order for us to do what we wanna do. But
Yep.
basically, it would be a giving tree of sorts. It would just be more virtual, and how full-time families used to do it is certain families that were in need for that season would submit their names, and then gifts were bought for the family members through that. And so it
Yep.
was real people in real time and deliveries and all that stuff. There was a lot of coordination that had to happen in order for it to work well. Um, but
But it
it
was
was a
nice. It
way
was
to,
nice to help the RV community across the country. You didn't have to be in any one specific location or
yeah,
anything else, and yeah, we would help provide Christmas gifts and meals for Christmas too.
yeah.
So
And even if that was just on some smaller scale, I mean, to start with for next year, that would be amazing. So,
yeah,
or
Yeah.
even I don't think we could pull that off this year, but who knows? The
you
sky's
never
kind of
know
the
what
limit.
tomorrow
So,
will
right.
bring.
Yeah.
So one of the things that was really important to me whenever we hit the road was finding ways to give back to the communities that we visited. And so one of the organizations that we paired up with and had the opportunity to meet up with was Lippert Serve. And they we met Christina and Sean Conlon through a completely different rally, and they got us involved. We went to a serve rally, and it just kinda opened our eyes up to different ways that you can organize and give back to the communities that you visit while you're on the road year round, not just at Thanksgiving. And
Mhm.
so one of the things that I've done this week is I had a chance to sit down with Christina and talk to her a little bit about how that got started for them and kind of their heart behind that project and how people can get involved or expand that vision into their own lives on the road. So we will be visiting with Christina today. But some of the things that we've done, just easy things, I think sometimes when we're on the road, we think about needing this act of giving back to be this big, um, organized event. I think sometimes, for me at least, I grew up in the church and it was always an organized event. It was a missions trip, or it was an outreach program, or it was going out and working at the soup kitchen as a group, or it was taking food, out to the homeless, or doing things that was organized in advance and all together, going and singing in nursing homes for Christmas or things like that. And I had to, as a now part of a nomadic moving community, I had to rethink and restructure my mindset about how I thought about getting involved. And so,
Right.
one of the things that we've done is started just kind of looking around and going, what can we do to be active in this community that we're in for 2 or 3 weeks? And so, like, we were in the Keys, and they had huge hurricane come through, and things were washing up on the beach that you normally wouldn't see. Like, there was a massive, mattress, and it was one of the, foam mattresses, and so the water was just absorbing into the mattress, and you literally could not move it. It it was so heavy, and so we just took a morning and just cut it into little movable pieces and took it to the trash, one little piece at a time, and that was so small. It was just one mattress that we ended up getting off this beach, but, so much better for the beach and for the community that lived there and for the animals in that area, and it wasn't an organized thing. It was just we went walking along the beach and we saw it and said, "We're gonna come back in the morning and we're gonna take some time and clean that up." So, one of the things that I wanna encourage everybody with is that there are small ways that we can give back, especially at this time of year, that make big impacts, um, if we just think outside of that box that we've maybe worked our giving into.
Definitely. Yeah.
And sometimes that can be as simple as, we're in a campground with, older neighbors and maybe they need their spot cleaned up, or maybe they need their dog walked, or maybe they, aren't feeling well and they need a bowl of soup. And so, one of the things on the road that I took away our first couple years, Kimberly Trevlino was the first owner of Full Time Families. And when someone was mean to you, she would say, bake them cookies. And I was like, and she goes, no, I mean it. And so that's what we started doing is, just and, I know there's food allergies and all sorts of things we deal with those, but at the same time, if you just take a moment to be kind, maybe it's not
Mhm.
baking them cookies, maybe it's going and buying a candle for them or, who knows what that looks like for your family. Maybe it's making them just a
Yeah.
card with the kids and saying,
Yep.
"Hey, I just wanted to let you know I wanted to spread some cheer and kindness." And so some of that can be done right in your own backyard as you travel. There's other
Yep.
ways to do it. I know we've been in campgrounds where people at Christmas time go caroling together and they organize that. And so you could do the same thing at Thanksgiving. Creating a thankful tree at your campground might be a
Mhm.
fun way to do that. And if you've never done a thankful for tree, it's just putting a tree on the wall, like out of paper, and everybody taking a leaf shape or your handprint and putting something that they're thankful for. And November is a great time to make that type of reflection.
Sure.
Yeah, another thing to think about is during the holidays, a really simple way that anybody can get involved, all ages from the youngest kids to, if you've got your grandparents with you, or, I mean, the entire family can get involved. You can get your pets involved if you're really creative. Um, there are a lot of families that have kids that are spending holidays in hospitals. And those families, they love to get cards. Those kids, they love to get cards that just wish them well. The hospitals have different guidelines around what can be written in the cards and what can be added to the cards. You don't want to put like glitter. You don't want to say things that promise they're going to get better, but saying things like, I'm thinking of you. Um, just encouraging words, drawing a picture for them, doing things like that, and then just taking those to the nearest hospital and dropping it off to the children's ward. They will distribute those to the kids that are in that area. And then, that does so much just to lift up those kids' spirits. Um, it, it's such a small thing, but it makes such a big impact in the hearts of
Yeah.
those kids.
Well, and one of the things that a lot of groups are known for, especially the Republic of Nomads, they like to do a service project during every one of their events. And that's giving
Mhm.
back to their community in some way. So, like several years ago, the first event we did, we painted a fence at Wendy's Ranch and Rescue. Now, it wasn't November and it wasn't for Thanksgiving, but it's a way you can give back any time of year. This past year,
Yeah.
we were up in South Fork, Colorado, and there were three different groups because it's South Fork, Colorado. There's not tons up there to do, but like a group of us
Right.
went to the Welcome Center and we dug up these knuckles basically and the roots that were full of like they called it cancer, but essentially it was a spore that was killing the trees. And so
Mhm.
we could give back that way. Another group got filled up quickly. It was at uh, a alligator farm out in Colorado, and then another group went to another location and served there. And so, teaching our kids on the road to give back to their communities is just as important. And that
Yeah.
doesn't have to be November, you know. And I
Mhm.
know that Jen, thinks that way because she's done a lot of work camping. Her
Mhm.
kids just pick stuff up now. They
Yep.
don't think about it. It's just part of their lifestyle.
Right.
And I think giving back, if you teach giving back that way, I think that that can be true for anybody.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. Well, we've got a few interviews with people who have kind of made it their lifestyle to give back. And so let's go ahead and hear what they have to say and what they can teach us about making it part of our lives. We are talking today with Tanya, which you guys may remember. She spoke with us about their Halloween and Dia de los Muertos gathering. But today we're going to talk about a whole bunch of things, one of them being traveling with a purpose. And Tanya, I'm wondering if you can just give us a quick introduction. What is traveling with a purpose and what does your organization do?
Yeah. So Traveling with a Purpose is a 501(c)(3) that we created about 5 years ago. Two of my children are adopted from Jamaica. And we wanted to continue to support the homes that were raising our children and raising lots of children. And we knew that we could go there, volunteer our time, and that would be great and wonderful. But we could have a greater impact if we brought others with us.
Mhm.
So we did that, and we've done that a few different times. And I hadn't done it for quite a few years because we were busy, raising our kids and doing the thing. And I started having people reach out to me, asking me when I was going to lead another service trip to Jamaica. And so I started planning one in 2018. And in 2019, we brought 40 people to
Wow.
Jamaica. We did two trips back to back right next to each other because 40 people for one team is just too many.
Yeah.
And normally what would happen is they would say, "Oh, this was a wonderful experience. Thank you for providing it. I've checked that off my bucket list, move on with life." This time that did not happen. And this group of 40 people said, how are we going to continue to support these children and the staff um, after we leave the island?
That's
And
awesome.
so it was with their prompting and support that we created our nonprofit and received that status in 2020. So, the traveling with a purpose. Right now, we are only going to Jamaica. We're not. We've explored going other places. It just hasn't worked out yet, but we might consider that in the future. But there's a few things that I like to point out that were a little bit different than other service organizations. First, we're secular in nature, so anybody's
Mhm.
welcome to join us, regardless of religious affiliation or not. We also do a lot of training in advance. We want to be educated guests in another culture. And so we don't want to inadvertently offend somebody while we're there and trying to, have an impact there. So we do 7 weeks of training covering different topics. And then we also, we don't go on a trip with ideas of what the projects are going to be in advance. We really
Mhm.
want to leverage the people who sign up and what their skill sets are and interests are. So, if we have an educator, or we have somebody who loves to garden, or we have somebody who's knowledgeable in QuickBooks, or somebody in carpentry, or a medically trained, whatever it might be, we want to make sure that we're leveraging that. And so we also don't presume that we know what our partners need and what's important to them. So I
Right.
will go to them and I say, these are the skill sets of our team members. What needs do you have that's a good match for? And together we figure that out. Um, and then we also really focus on sustainability. So,
Okay.
core sustainability, people think of energy and clean water, but we see sustainability as anything that will continue to benefit our partners after we leave.
Okay.
So, for instance, we helped one of the homes fix up their chicken coop um, so that they could have chickens again. So now they have layers, they have meat eaters, and so that's a good source of protein for the home, but also they have enough that they can sell. And so brings in a little income for them. So that's something that continued to benefit them after we left. Training, we've had medical people come and train in first aid and CPR, and when should they treat at home and when do they need to take kids to the clinic. That's something that will continue to benefit them after we leave. So those are just some
Yeah.
examples of some of the things that we see as sustainability. So that is how traveling with a purpose came to be and what we're all about.
So, what are the ages for people who can attend with you guys on these trips?
hmm So, we welcome anybody who's 13 years of age or older. That doesn't mean all 13, 14, 15, 20, 50-year-old people, regardless of age, it's a good fit for. So we want to make sure it's a good fit.
Mhm.
And minors need to come with with an adult. So you can't send a minor with on one of these trips. So we've had most of the time kids attend with a parent, but we did have one
Mhm.
occasion where a teen attended with his aunties.
And I love this idea of parents being able to take their teenagers and
Mhm.
show them the benefits of giving to others and the benefits of
Yeah.
feeding into others' lives where
Mhm.
maybe we don't get the opportunity in our day-to-days. So that's kind of interesting. How many trips are you guys taking right now a year?
Yeah, so we do one or two a year.
Mhm.
Our next one is coming up in January. So we'll be bringing a team of people in January down to Jamaica, and the board has not decided yet if we're going to be doing one in the summer. But we are. We usually, if we do one in the summer, we typically do it the end of July, early August is when we do our summer trip.
So if someone wants to get involved, but maybe they don't have a way to go on a trip or they don't see themselves as someone who's ready to get on a plane and go,
Yep.
what are some ways that they could get involved with a traveling with a purpose trip?
So first, I want to say, if finances is one of the obstacles, we do have some scholarships that we offer, and so always check into that. This upcoming trip, we've got six people who have applied for our scholarships, and we have
Wow.
three of them this trip. So always check into that. But again, it's not always because of the money. Sometimes it's because of other reasons. But there are other ways to be involved. So
Uh-huh.
we one of the things that we do when we go down is we ask our partners in Jamaica what things they need because they are an island. Anything that's imported is really, really expensive, between 30 to 50% more expensive than if you were to buy it here. So we put together a wish list and we push that out, and people can then select, something for $15, or they can, buy $100 worth of stuff or whatever, but they get to decide how much they are able to contribute. And then when it gets closer to the trip, then we do ask for sometimes we're raising funds to do a project. So we need to buy
Mhm.
fencing, or we need supplies when we get there to do the project. So sometimes we're also raising some cash funds as well for that. So
Yeah.
those would be two ways to do that. And then just following us on our social media platforms, and sharing the opportunity. Maybe somebody you know is interested in going or would like to also um, volunteer in some way. And then we also have some groups that do some very specific things. We have a group that makes very thin quilts for us,
Oh,
and we
nice.
bring them down there so that each child gets their own to keep. Because when you are living in a place, you know, other than a family member caring for you, sometimes very few things are yours. And so
Yeah.
each of these quilts are unique. They're all different. They're not purchased. They're all homemade. So that's just an example of how a group who've never been with me has been able to contribute on an ongoing basis and have a huge impact.
So we are made up of RVers. And this was one of the questions that I had whenever we were trying to gather things is, you've got this wish list, but how do I get those things to me, to you, to Jamaica? How do those things travel?
Yep. Yep. And it is a little more challenging for those of us who live full
Yeah.
time in RVs. It's not impossible. I'm trying to think how many we had 6 full-time RVers on the last trip of
Mhm.
18 last year. So,
Wow.
um, it can be done. So what we do is we create the Amazon wish list, and then I put my RVers towards the end of the list so that they're not carrying stuff with them for very long. And we have to be planful and send the items to a location where they can receive packages. So that's and then actually a mother daughter that joined us that were full time RVers. They were near where I was, and I was quite stationary for a couple months, anyways. And I collected the items for them, and then they just came and got their suitcases that were already packed. So that worked well.
That's awesome.
So it is a little tricky, and like I said, I'm mindful of that being a full-time RVer myself.
Yeah.
I don't want my RVers to be lugging around a suitcase full of supplies for too long. We try to put them towards the end of the list so it's
Oh, yeah.
closer to that we leave that they're, bringing that stuff with them.
So when those opportunities come up, how can people find out about them? Are they going up on your website, on your pages? Where can they find out about those?
Yeah. On our website, we have an events page, so we put things up on there, and then also on our social media platforms. We're on Facebook and on Instagram as well, so we put those out
Okay.
out there as well.
Okay. So awesome. So I want to reiterate that you've got your January trip coming up with traveling with a purpose. That is at this point in time, it is booked. You've got your people in place, but other opportunities will be coming up for people who are interested in going on those trips. And they can keep an eye on travelingwithapurpose.org for
Correct.
any upcoming dates that
Yeah.
happen.
And what I tell people is if they're interested in a future, um, we call it TAP, Traveling with a Purpose TAP trip, that they really should subscribe to our newsletter. We send
Hmm.
out maybe 10 newsletters a year. It's not a lot, but that would be the
Yep.
best way. 'cause you know how it works with social media, you don't see every post, but then you will know, "Hey, we've opened registration for this trip. Here are the dates. Here's the cost. Here's the itinerary." So that would be the best way to keep track of that is to go onto our web page, scroll to the bottom, and sign up for our newsletter.
We're just so excited. We're excited to find out about more things that you've got coming. I mean, you guys have always got things coming up. So
We do.
holler when you have something else coming up because we would love to talk to you about it.
Awesome.
And thank you so much for visiting with me. And is
Of
there
course.
anything else that you want to share about giving back on the road or um, just getting involved in and serving in general?
There's just lots of different opportunities. You just have to dig for them and look and see where they are. And yeah, I would say our next, past the Dia de los Muertos event we have going on here, our next big one will probably be our river cleanup next summer. So we would love to see you. It's a great time out on the river. It's hot, but you get to stay cool because you're in the water and help
Right?
clean rivers and make this place that we love to travel and see so much more beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Tanya. I really appreciate your time
Right.
today.
You, Tasha.
Bye. Yeah, today I have the honor of getting to sit down and speak to Andrea from Lasagna Love. And Andrea, I am wondering if you can just tell us a little bit about Lasagna Love and how it got started.
Lasagna Love started out in San Diego just about 5 years ago, where we were the first state to shut down. And when we got the news that everything was at a standstill, my immediate need, along with our founders, was to how can I help? And what can I do, especially now that we were, essentially shelter in place and stay at home? d What do I have now right in front of me that I can do something with to help somebody, right next door to me or in my community? And so the first thing I thought was, I don't have kids' lunches to pack for school every day, so I have all of these extra groceries, and I would hate for them to expire. And the grocery stores were shut down and things like that. So my thought was, what are the people going to do that were going to go to the grocery store
Yeah,
that night or maybe tomorrow? And so I started offering delivery of just groceries to anyone who needed that. And no questions asked, just give me an address and we'll be able to do that. And Rhiannon was out making lasagnas for people. And together in a Facebook group, somebody had said, "Hey, she's cooking, you're giving groceries. Why don't the two of you pair up?" And I was like, "Oh, that's a great idea." And so I had a message in my Facebook messages and said, "Hey, let's talk." And I'm like, "Great." I used to have a restaurant when I was younger, and I don't know how to make anything small. And it was Italian Chicago style food. So I was like, lasagna is like right up my alley.
that's awesome.
I was so excited about that. So we started really just getting the word out, and it was collectively in the San Diego area, and then we started to see people message us who were, "Hey, I'm not really in need myself, but I'd love to help out. How can I do this where I live?" And so we started to see clusters pop up in Ames, Iowa, in Tampa, Florida, in Savannah, Georgia, Boston, and so we really started to spread just by word of mouth and on Facebook posts about if you're in, please request a meal, and then we'll match you up to someone who is willing to cook a meal for you. And we were just building those neighborhood connections and being able to allow people the space to do something from their home that was deeply meaningful in a time that everyone felt very isolated. So
Yeah.
it was, acts of kindness together that we were just trying to see. And now we've grown pretty tremendously in the last 5 years. So,
I love that so much. Whenever I found you guys, I was actually looking for it was right around Thanksgiving for us, and we were in our first year in our RV. We launched out like we're at about 2.5 years that we've been on the road now. And we were going to a town that we had never been to, and I knew that I wanted to do something with the family, but I didn't know what. And so I was literally Googling, what can we do in this town to give back to the community while we're there? And Lasagna Love just came up in one of the searches that we did. And that's how I heard about you guys. And I started looking, and I think one of the things that like really tugged at my heart was that it was created during a time when um like you were saying, there was this isolating in place, right? Everybody was
Mhm.
kind of isolated into their own little homes and their sections, but it allowed people to give to others that were
Yeah.
in the same situation. And sometimes for us, as we started out on this path, we didn't, I tell people a lot when we got started, we didn't know anybody else living this life. And there are times where it can feel very isolating. Um, and this opportunity that we have through Lasagna Love, it provides a way for us to remember that we are connected to the community. And so I just love that it's like, we're not in a time of COVID or shutdown or anything like that anymore, but it doesn't mean that this is not a need that is still relevant. And I see all the time that the number of people who are requesting meals is going up, that you guys are constantly still looking for volunteers to give. Can you talk a little bit about how families or individuals are brought to Lasagna Love for the nomination process, or how they get into your system, and what that I know that there's like a waiting period before they can get another one, kind of what that looks like in the process?
Yeah, absolutely. So when someone requests a meal, part of our, core of who we are is we want to break down the barriers in asking for help. It is sometimes really, really difficult, especially if this is one of the first times you're facing a challenge. And so we have the option to request a meal, but then, you know, you may have a coworker or a neighbor or someone in your community that is facing a difficult time. And so you can nominate them to help make it a little bit easier for them to receive a meal when they may not do it for themselves. And so during the process, when you request a meal, there's just some key information that we need, not a whole lot. We just need to
Mhm.
know who and how many and where to go, keeping it really, high level on the dignity. We don't have requirements. We don't have, you have to have this to qualify or anything like that. Need is need. And if you're in a challenging time, we want you to be able to feel good about, raising your hand, because I'll be honest, every one of us can find ourselves in a challenging time.
Yeah.
And, no one is immune to that. And so we're just trying to make that step easier for them. So once that request is made or that nomination is made, we'll be able to then match them with a volunteer in that area. And that volunteer is able to, again, we want to make it super easy. How far are you willing to drive? How many families or individuals are you willing to be matched with? Do you have dietary preferences you'd like to make? You tell us what you would like to do, and then we match on Mondays and Tuesdays of the week. And then you get matched with that family or that individual in that community. And we really make that direct, person to person interaction come alive and become pretty magical, because for those who deliver and volunteer, you know, they feel really good because they're able to help a fellow neighbor in their community. And
Yeah.
those who are receiving the lasagna are also able to go, wow, like they see me in my very difficult times, and it's challenging, and they care for me, and they thought about me while they were making this lasagna for me. So
Yeah.
it's pretty rewarding on all sides of the volunteer and the request experience.
Yeah. I have had some moments where um it, I've left homes and I just thought, I don't know if I'm going to make it out of this driveway without crying before I get, um,
Yeah.
just because of the interactions of being able to speak with some of these families. And sometimes I've had drop-offs where I've been like, "You know what? If it works for you, I can leave it right outside your door, and I can text you and let you know it's there, and then I can leave and you can pick it up, and it doesn't have to be a contact drop off.
Mhm.
And I've had a lot of people that's very comfortable for them because part of asking for help, there's unnecessary shame wrapped up in our society with asking for help. And so a lot of times people don't want even to have to open the door to
Mhm.
another person to take that food. But I have also had experiences where whole families have come out to say thank you and come out with their children and, um, had there was one family in particular that their little girl was going through chemo and she was on like her third round. And
Mhm.
she came out and she just looked so tired. And you knew that she had been through so much. But seeing that lasagna, she her face perked up and she was so excited, and it's just those moments of interactions with another person and being able to see how you can give of something that, that was just a little bit of time for us. I also want to encourage people because for people who maybe are like, yeah, but I'm not good at talking with strangers or I'm not good with organizing things. One of the things that I think is just brilliant about how you guys have everything set up is that you have some of the easiest to use scripts written that I've ever seen for here's some texting scripts like to
Yeah.
send that just says, hey, this is who I am. I'm not some weirdo just reaching out to you out of the blue. I would like
Right.
to bring you some food. And it's so easy. It's such an easy way. And then even down to like being able to put in a paper that says, this is the ingredients that, these are the ingredients that are in your lasagna so that if there's a situation they get sick, they know what they're looking at allergy wise. This is when you can request your next lasagna. This is, um, you know, it's just so easy to use as a volunteer. There's no second guessing, there's no trying to figure your way through it. No matter where you are, it doesn't matter that you are figuring it out solo on a computer in whatever state you are in, everything's provided for you and it's so easy to use. It's just so well done.
Oh, I appreciate that. I mean, if somebody wants to help out in their community, we want to make it as easy as possible. Again, like with requesting a meal, no barriers.
Mhm.
We take pride in the fact of essentially like plug and play, right? Hey,
Yeah,
I want to help out. Great. Here's everything you need and go enjoy yourself making an incredible meal for someone in your community. Help make that local impact worthy and exciting and all of that good stuff. Keep all of the energy in that interaction in that moment for those who are baking and those who are receiving, not on the administrative side of things. Like
yeah,
that part, that's on us as the organization to get all of that right for you. So then that way, you get to go shop for the ingredients and you get to make that as much of your time that you're willing to donate to help support your community. That needs to be spent between you and the person who requested, not on the other technical stuff and things like that.
yeah,
That's where, I feel like that's the least we can do to help support
yeah.
volunteers in the journey.
Well, if someone is wanting to get involved, but they're not entirely sure of their cooking skills or what are some other ways that they could help support Lasagna Love or support some of the other people who are willing to bake or willing to donate? How can they get involved that way?
That's a great question. So first of all, I want to make sure people understand lasagna seems really complicated, but it's really not. It's
It
just
really
meat,
isn't.
noodles, cheese, and sauce. And then
Yes.
you do that two more times. So don't let that part get in anyone's way of thinking like, oh, I don't know about this. I promise you, you can't mess it up. It's pretty easy. Plus we have recipes, right? So give it a try if you're on the fence and you can just do this just this once. But there's so many other ways to get involved, right? You could even just post in your social networks about us. letting people know that we exist to help those in need. And also, if they want to volunteer and get involved, we really appreciate that. We grew from word of mouth. So that's a really big way you can donate to help support. We have a Patreon where you can sponsor a chef. So maybe
Nice.
you don't want to cook, but you want to sponsor a chef who would love to cook more, but maybe financially can't do more. We pair you guys up, just similar to like how we pair the neighbors in need with those who are wanting to volunteer. So you can go to our site, lasagnalove.org, and it has all of this information on how you can get involved in other ways. But as a volunteer, I think the most rewarding component is finding something that you love to do and being able
Mhm.
to give back in a very meaningful way. So whether that is volunteering and baking or, spreading the word or donating into the cause or, just telling people about us in, say you're at a meeting in a local town hall and sharing that, and maybe then all of a sudden we have additional groups who want to get in, organized with us. That's incredible. And that's how we together are all part of this incredible puzzle that we all play a part and there's all something that we can do. Um, you know, a lot of people cook, a lot of people donate their skill sets, a lot of people just help share the words and take our social media and spread it. And all of that helps us to make us a better organization to support those in need in our communities and for the volunteers within the organization itself.
And so, whether they want to nominate someone or ask for a lasagna or volunteer, same website for all needs?
Yeah. So if you want, I'll make it super easy. If you want to request a lasagna, it's lasagnalove.org/request. If you want to volunteer, it's lasagnalove.org/volunteer. But if you just want to check us out in general, just lasagnalove.org. And there's a whole lot of
Fantastic.
information out there and also our most recent updates, some really great stories, and just a ton of ways to get involved there.
That's so great. Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on. I have had a blast talking to you and learning more. Um, and I hope that tons of people just flock in to make lasagnas and share Italian food with the world. But thank you so much for coming on. And I don't know, hopefully we'll get to talk to you again. Is there anything big coming up or anything you want to let us know that's coming up with Lasagna Love anytime soon?
We're hoping for just a pretty fun and exciting holiday season coming up. It's the season for generosity and kindness and
Yeah.
giving. And so we will be pretty busy because we want to bring a lot of extra love and kindness, especially this time of year. But no, nothing really special. We have pasta for a purpose where we focus on that. But
Yeah.
it's just a good time of year to bring community together, period.
Awesome.
So I'm happy to have anyone come and join us. And thank you, Tasha, for everywhere you go, you get to spread the love. And you're just
Yeah,
like leaving
absolutely.
seeds of kindness. And I greatly appreciate that. And I'm sure your communities that you are in do the same. It's like I always believe in the method of, leaving a place better than how you found it. And
Yep.
this is definitely one of those methods that I think you're able to easily partake in as being able to
Yes.
give back in a community in a meaningful way that you've traveled to. So
I absolutely agree. Well, we will have everything in the show notes. And so if anybody has any questions, you can send them over and I will answer what I can and I will point you towards Andrea if I can't. But thank you so much for coming on and I hope you have a good day.
well, thank you so much. Have a great day.
We're here with Christina Conlin, who is being so gracious with her time to share with us a little bit about Serve with Lippert and just to tell us a little bit about that for our episode about serving on the road and finding opportunities to give back on the road. So, Christina, for listeners who haven't heard of Serve by Lippert, can you start by telling us kind of what they do and what makes it unique for the RVing community?
Yes. So, first of all, Tasha, thank you for having me on. I love talking about Serve. and connecting people with different volunteer opportunities, which I know we'll get into. But yes, so Serve is an initiative that Lippert started. Oh my goodness. It has been four 4 years ago now, which is really wild. But what our whole goal with this initiative is to bring volunteer opportunities to the RV community. So we want to make sure that RVers feel connected to the communities that they travel to, and that they are able to give back on the road. You know, you and I have both lived in our RVs full time and traveled, and it's really hard to feel a part of a community when you're traveling, and we wanna make sure that
Yeah.
people are able to have those opportunities while they're on the road.
Yeah, absolutely. How did you and Sean first connect with Serve, and what drew you guys to get involved with Serve?
Yes, so that is a very long story that I will, like everybody says, long story short, I will try to make it as concise as possible. But us, along with Corey and Jesse Nickerson, we're both doing our own separate volunteering on the road. And we met and came together for our love for volunteerism. And Serve was birthed really from both of us coming together. So Sean and I, my husband and I, we started traveling in 2020 with our golden retriever Bo, oh my goodness, Nash. Bo was prior. But we were traveling with Nash. I was actually just talking to our son about Bo this morning. So I was mom brain. But anyway, we had just gotten Nash certified as a therapy dog, which we had wanted to do with Bo. He passed away prior to us being able to do this with him. But we got
Aw.
Nash certified to be a therapy dog in fall of 2019. We were living in Nashville, having the best time volunteering with him. He loved it. He was such a ham. We joke that he was really living out his true purpose. And then we know at the beginning of 2020, all of everything changed. And
Yeah.
we went from really doing something that we loved as a family, for something that we had talked about for so many years, and we were standing still, and we're all so bored. We just felt like we were in our groove, and then all of a sudden it got taken away from us. And my husband and I had always talked about this crazy idea of what would happen if we just traveled full time. He's an entrepreneur by trade. We're not, you know, necessarily, we don't need to live in one spot. So he brought this idea up at a campfire with our neighbors. He's like, what if we just traveled and volunteered with Nash? And I was like, that sounds like a terrible idea. Like, people say the best day when you get a boat, the best day is the day you buy it and the day you sell it. And I was like, what if that's like an RV? But we had always talked about it. So I was like, maybe that's a bad idea, but maybe that's a good idea. So anyway, we
Yeah.
tucked it away. I was like, I don't want to talk about that. And then he brought it up a couple weeks later, and I was like, okay, you're really serious about this. So anyway, long story short, we prayed a lot about it and felt God really stirring in us to actually go out, sell our stuff, get an RV. And there's a lot of specifics and a lot of confirmation that we had along the way. But to sell our stuff, get an RV, and travel, work from the road, and volunteer with Nash. And so that's exactly what we did. We connected with Lippert through a mutual friend that connected us with Jason Lippert. Had an amazing conversation with him about our heart and what we wanted to do on the road. And it was just a very uh, easy conversation, because Lippert, for those that don't know, they have such strong ties with volunteerism as a company. So their
Okay.
corporate team does an incredible amount of volunteering. Lippert has an initiative called Lippert Cares, where their employees
Mhm.
volunteer. I mean, they've got over 600,000 hours of volunteering for the
Wow.
last, I think it's maybe 6 years. So yes, they really do live live the talk. What is it, the saying? Walk the walk.
Walk the
I
walk.
think that's it.
Yeah.
But they really, yeah, walk the walk. Thank you. That mom brain of mine. But so it was a great, easy conversation. We partnered with Lippert. Fast forward, we were a year into traveling with Nash, and we traveled in this big wrapped RV that had all of our sponsors on it, all of our tour information on it. And we always got the question from our viewers, how do you do this? Like, how are
Right.
you finding these opportunities on the road? How are you making time for it? I would love to do the same, but I just don't know where to start. And so many RVers are either retirees or families.
Yeah.
And they have these great intentions, but they just don't know where to go from that idea. And so going into our second year, we brought up a different initiative to Michaela Grimes, who we work directly with through Lippert Cares, and Jason. And we're like, what if we pivoted? We love what we're doing in volunteering with Nash, but what if we pivoted and started an initiative for the RV community? And like I said, Corey and Jesse do a ton of volunteering on their own as well. And Corey and Jesse are with Finding Our Someday, for those that don't know. And we just came together. We done, like I said, a lot of conversations with them. And we're like, what if we start something for the RV community? In walk serve. So our second year on the road, we piloted the program. We did some happy hours talking about volunteering at campgrounds. We did some initial events through
Mhm.
our travels, and we got great feedback. So we launched Serve initially at the Getaway. Oh my goodness, the second one. Anyway, I can't remember years anymore, but we
That's
launched
okay.
that,
They're
and
all
we have just grown as a Serve family.
Yeah, all of the years, they just kinda meld together after a while, especially on the road, I think.
They really do, especially when you're on the road. Yes,
Yeah.
they do.
Mhm.
Anywho, so that's how Serve came about, and it's just been a beautiful growth since then, and it was really awesome to be a part of it since the beginning.
That's awesome. So, serving with a purpose, I love that that is that heart of serve. And how do you see that play out in the lives of other RVers, and the serve volunteers?
When you take it back, when people start on the road, they start with this stripped down desire to simplify and to be more intentional and present in their life. Fast forward, when you get on the road, you realize while those core values are still there, you almost can lose all of those things, that sense of
Yeah.
community, that sense of even what city you're in. And while you start with the best of intentions, if you're not so specific on drilling down, it can be really hard to follow through. And that's not for any fault of anyone's. That really is just because that is the transient nature of this lifestyle, whether you're
Mhm.
full time, part time, weekend warrior. Now, with Serve, that's the purpose behind it. It's connecting our RVers to the communities that they're traveling to. So everybody's travels look different. Some people do quarter stays. Some people are travel nurses. Some people are moving every 3 days. So everybody's cadence is so different. So for us, what our goal as a Serve family and Serve ambassadors is to provide RVers wherever they are, however frequently they're traveling, with those opportunities to volunteer where they're at. And if we don't have specific events happening in their area, because there's only so many of us and there's way more RVers traveling than there are
Right.
ambassadors. Our goal is to get you connected with either nonprofits that we have already vetted or to get you to be able to equip you to research nonprofits in the area that you're traveling to call them up and just say, hey, I've got 2 hours this Saturday. How can I help you? We can give you a ton of information from events and nonprofits in different areas across the country to if you just need help calling a nonprofit and just knowing what to say. It's part of kind of the intimidation of it is, we want to strip all of that away and make it as easy as possible for people to connect and travel, to connect while traveling and get some volunteer hours in because that really brings so much more purpose, especially if people are traveling and they're retired. They can sometimes lose their purpose while on the road. We talked to so many people at the beginning of our travels that experienced that, and that those are the years more than ever that people want to really do things that are intentional, and we just want to make
Yeah.
really be the conduits to making sure that they can do those things.
So tell me a little bit about ambassador-led events. What does that look like for somebody who wants to maybe volunteer with those? What type of events can they expect to see?
Yes, that's such a great question. So we have a group of ambassadors that have gone through our training program, and it's a very simple training program. It's not these hours and weeks and conferences worth of things, but we keep it really simple because again, everybody's busy, and this is a volunteer based program. So
Mhm.
what we do is we walk everybody through really the steps and how to figure this out, how to find nonprofits, go through, set up events, and then ultimately host and execute these events. So, what we do for these ambassadors, we give them the tools and they'll reach out again based on how and when they're traveling. They'll reach out to, let's say, a thrift store in the area that they're traveling. Let's just paint this picture. Let's say that Sean and I are traveling to Ellijay, Georgia. We're staying at a property there. There's a great thrift store called Roots Thrift Shop. We have personally volunteered there, so it's easy for me to paint this picture.
Yeah.
But I call them up, I call their volunteer coordinator, and I just say, hey, we are going to be there these dates to this dates. Can we set up an event throughout those dates that you need help during? And they'll say yes or no, and we'll just coordinate from there. So we will set up a time to go and visit with them, and then we will market that event to RVers in that area or through that campground. So we utilize a lot of marketing through campgrounds because that's really the direct way that we can connect with people that are going to be there at that specific date and time. We also utilize Facebook groups in that area. So we'll join a Facebook group, whether it's just a community group, a homeschool group, and we get creative in how we do that. We'll put up flyers. We will go to a local coffee shop and share. While our goal is to connect our RVers, we really want to open it to the whole community. So volunteering isn't just for us, and we want to make sure that people that live in LJ can connect with Roots and know that they're there, know that there are volunteer opportunities too, so that when we're gone, when our travels are done, that they still have great resources coming in and asking how that they can help. And that's really our goal. So we do host these ambassador led events. And really, what people can expect with those, if they do go to one, is a really well organized, very well executed event for you to show up and for everything to be ready for you. You go, you volunteer, and it's as easy as that. And that's really what it's about. People love a really well organized event, and that's what we provide.
So, can you talk about any age restrictions or things that families need to know, or even older adults need to know about if they have any restrictions in mobility or anything like that? What should people know about any physical restrictions or age restrictions that might come up in terms of volunteering, things like that?
That's a great question. And that is really dependent upon the event and the
Mhm.
nonprofit. So there are nonprofits that have, I'll call it like rules and regulations around ages. And that is something that we cannot change. So that is a question that we go through when we're setting up an event, and that will be reflected on we have both a website and we share through our Serve Facebook group, which this is a plug. If you have not joined that, I highly encourage you to. That is where all of our news really takes place. But that's our job as ambassadors to make sure we have that information for our volunteers. So you had mentioned kiddos, and if there's any accessibility that we need to accommodate for. Um, we do the best we can to find family friendly opportunities, but sometimes that's just not possible. Like I've noticed a lot at food pantries, there's like a 8-year-old minimum or a 4-year-old minimum, and that's just not something we can change. But if there is not a minimum of age, we just say if a parent is going to bring their child, it is their responsibility to not only help them, but to also watch them. At an event, there can be a lot going on, and we want to make sure that everybody is as safe as possible. And with that does come really just a parent having to work a little extra harder to make sure their kiddo is safe. But we want to make it an opportunity for everyone. Kiddos love volunteering, they love working, they love having that purpose. And we really want to make sure that we can foster that all of us are parents, and we want to make sure that we give families the opportunity to volunteer with their kids, no matter the age, and with accessibility as well. We run into many less issues with that because there's always something that we can have you do. For example, years ago, we were volunteering in Myrtle Beach um, at Meals on Wheels, and they had different stations. Some people were moving food with like pallets of food. So, like, all the guys and all their muscles were like moving food. And then we had like a quilt sorting section, and like a handful of ladies were working there. And then we had like a postage card making section that like people were having to like stuff envelopes. I mean, you can see based on those stations, there's a variety of different um like physical skill levels. Not every event is like that. There's many events where we're all doing the same thing, but a lot of events, like, we can always find a space for you. And if not, I mean, if accessibility is a problem, and like, you really just are not mobile and you can't really do a lot, still come. We would absolutely love to have you be our cheerleader, and just to have, more people there to encourage everybody. Because let me tell you, if you cannot physically do something, you can find a lot of ways to still talk to people. And sometimes
Yes.
the greatest way to bless people is just to have a conversation with them. How many people don't talk to people face to face anymore?
Right.
So everybody can be
So
used,
true.
and we want to make sure that everybody knows that.
That's fantastic. Well, if someone listening right now wants to get involved with Serve, how do they get started? What are their first steps?
So go to Facebook and go to our Serve Facebook group, and that's SERV, Serve by Lippert. And let me make sure I've got that exact um, thing so you don't, yes. So go to Lippert Serve. So that's LIPPERTSERV, and that'll take you to our Facebook group. You'll have a couple of questions to fill out, and then we'll accept you. And like I said, all of our ambassadors are actively posting in there multiple times a week. We put all of our events on there as well, and that's just a really great resource to connect and communicate with other RVers that are traveling and serving as well.
That's awesome. And we will put that in our show notes and on our website as well. And then I know that you guys have a website that is a great resource for trying to find different opportunities in areas, like if a family is just going out and wanting to try and find ways to get involved in the communities that they're going to be in, or places that need help. Can you let us know that website as well?
Yes, that is servewithpurpose.com. Again,
Okay.
SERV with
Okay. Awesome.
purpose.com.
Well, Christina, thank you so much for coming on with us and taking time out of your busy day and away from your babe. I know that being a mom of a newborn is, well, I mean, he's not a newborn anymore, but you know, that's a busy full day. So I really appreciate your time. I'll
The
have
show notes.
links for all of the different volunteer opportunities that we've spoken about today in the show notes. And if you guys have any opportunities that you want to share with the community, or things that you're like, hey, I didn't know that you didn't know about this. How do you not know about this? Please make us wiser. Share
Yes.
that. Let's do a hashtag. Jen, can you, one of you guys come up with like a good hashtag? What's a good hashtag to put on this? Let's do,
How about learn to RV gives back? LTRV gives back. And so
okay.
that
Yes.
yeah, so super simple. LTRV gives back. Put that down in the notes or write to the
With an
blog right
S.
on the blog site. Yep. And
Yep.
say, give us ideas. We would love next year going into this season to be able to give back to this community. I mean, it can be something as simple as, I'm sure all of you guys at some point or another have heard about a meal train where
Yep.
somebody needs food. And so if that gets organized, what if we did a meal train in the RV community just in November that's special for families that get submitted? And so what that might look like is, we just drop off a $100 gift card to somewhere where they can go grocery shopping even. And that
Yeah.
even then
Yeah.
their money could go even further. So, imagine what you could do with an extra $100 for your groceries this week.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. I love giving back. I hope that you guys will give back with us and that you will follow us, share us, come back and sit with us around the campfire next week. And that you have a great fall from Learn to RV, the podcast. We will catch you around the campfire next week. Thank you.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Come see us on Patreon.
Be sure to join this crazy campfire crew at the Learn to RV podcast again next week. Like and subscribe so you never miss an episode.